Hello friends, in this lesson we are going to study governor limits in Salesforce in Apex. So Salesforce has some governor limits because it is a limited resources. So each people they have their org and then they benefit from same resources sometimes. So Apex Runtime Engine strictly enforces limits to ensure that runaway Apex code or processes don't monopolize, like share resources, like don't go to the same person because the resources are shared and they are limited. Why Salesforce has a governor limit? Because Apex runs in a multi-tenant environment. Means if you have a building and in that building or a hotel and you have 100 rooms and people they hire rooms and they live there. So but the hotel has a limited resource of water sometimes. Imagine you are living in a place and you have limited water or energy or some resources. So not to if a person opens the tap and then all water goes to 2-3 people, the rest of people what they will do? So they will have problem with that. To avoid this and for all the people to benefit, so the Salesforce limited the resources so all the users in their org they can benefit according to their their license. Apex Runtime Engine strictly enforce limits to ensure that runaway Apex or process do not monopolize shared resources. If some Apex code exceeds a limit, the associated governor issues a runtime exception that cannot be handled. So if the code exceeds a limit, then associated governor issues a runtime exception that cannot be handled. So you have to change it. Types of governor limits that are per transaction Apex limits, per transaction certified managed package list limits, Lightning Platform Apex limits, static Apex limits, size specific Apex limit, and miscellaneous Apex limits. These are the type of governor limits. Here is a list of important governor limits. So here I have the next slide, but total number of SQL queries issued is 100 in one time if you are requesting. Total number of SOSL queries issued is 20. Total number of DML statement issued is 150. Total number of records retrieved by SQL queries is 50,000. Total number of records processed as a DML. Total number of records processed as a result of DML statement is 10,000. So we have synchronous limit and synchronous limits, but they are not a lot. There is not a lot of difference, but very slight difference in some of the process. Like total number of SQL queries issued. Asynchronous limit has 100, but asynchronous has 200. Total number of records retrieved by SQL, it is same 50,000. Total number of records retrieved by database get query locator is 10,000. Total number of SQL queries issued is 2020. So total number of records retrieved by a single SOSL query is 2000. Total number of DML statement issued is 150. So these are the total number of records processed as a result of DML statements is 10,000, and total number of calls out HTTP request or web service calls in transaction is 100. And then these are total stack depth for a Apex invocation that recursively fires trigger due to the insert update statement is 16. So these are the some basic. You can go through more examples in developer.apex Salesforce website. So maybe no need to memorize to know some of them, but you should know some of them. These are some of important ones. So avoiding governor limits. From a developer perspective, it's important to ensure that our code should be schedulable and should not hit the governor limits. It's very important to follow some of the best practices so that our code does not hit governor limit. These are some of the best practices that we should follow. What is that? What are the best practices? Bulkify your code. Instead of one by one, then put in, list, set, collection. Avoid SQL queries or the MS statement inside for loop. This also hits the governor limit. And bulkify your helper method using collections, streamline queries, and efficient for loops. Streamlining multiple triggers on the same object. Querying large data sets. Use of limit apex methods to avoid hitting governor limits. Like to use limits apex method and use feature appropriately, feature method. Use batch apex if you are working for more than 50,000 records. As you know, batchable class we are going to have learned. Then never make any SQL DML operation inside the for loop. Thank you very much for the listening.